All right, we are live now. Just a little bit of context. My girlfriend is interviewing people, and I decided to have some casual conversation with more level-headed topics. And today I'm going to talk with Chris Belcher, the creator of JoinMarket. And that's it. So, hi, Chris.
Hello.
First, I heard that you were talking about Microsoft and open source in the first interview, and there is something that people don't really know because it's a new thing. It's a 1-2 year old thing that Microsoft is starting to open source and doing cross-platform stuff. For example, they open sourced C#, the language. They open sourced the libraries, the .NET libraries, and wrote Visual Studio for Mac, wrote Visual Studio Code for all platforms, and they started a cross-platform .NET. And yeah, it's going to the right direction. I hope we're going to get there when Microsoft is going full open source with everything. Anyway, this is just
that's
saying.
good for them, definitely. My point more was more about how in Bitcoin it has to be open source because there has to be a low requirement for trust. I can understand in other businesses have nothing to do with Bitcoin, and there may be appropriate times when you use closed source.
So I want to talk about JoinMarket.
Sure.
What was the progress of JoinMarket? You are doing it for 2 years now, right?
Yeah.
So what was the progress when you first wrote? It was command line, and then you introduced Blocker API. I don't know what happened. What things were happening up until today?
So in the beginning, it was I can try and tell you the whole story. I guess the whole history from my mind that they were. In the beginning, it was mostly, if I admit, it was mostly like almost a joke, like a proof of concept, like maybe this could work and it could be interesting. But they were, then over time, other people actually seriously wanted to use it. So then I was a bit more motivated and I got some donations and I made it better and better, with other people's help. So the thing you're talking about, blockr.io, that was that JoinMarket, it needs a way it has its own internal wallet, and it needs a way to synchronize that to learn its history and its balance.
So before that, you were using Bitcoin Core, and then you added another way API, right? Blocker.
Yeah, so actually, I was using blockr.io actually came first because back then
Blocker
I was
first. Okay.
Yeah, I think me at least didn't really understand the details of verification and privacy and Bitcoin Core and that kind of thing. And I saw, I was first getting involved, so I saw a blockchain API that was really easy to use and convenient. So why the hell not use it? Then blockr.io came first, and then I thought about. Obviously, I realized that then the blockr.io can see everything you do, and that's kind of rubbish. So I spent a long time thinking of what's a better way, and then over those few months, realized really the only way is to download every single block ever on your hard drive and scan it, and that means you have to use either a Bitcoin node or something similar. And then I wrote this.
Yes, it was my progression with Hidden Wallet to that very first version. When actually I wrote Hidden Wallet for JoinMarket the first time, but then I wasn't able to connect your Python code with my C# code, and anyway, I spent months on it, but there was always something was always wrong. So I went to other directions. My point is, I started with a web API too. I think it was Blocker at the time, and then I was talking more about privacy and full nodes with you. And then I was realizing that, hey, it's a terrible concept. I shouldn't do this. So yeah, you were
also
the one.
in the meantime, In the meantime, I started writing JoinMarket in around 2014. And in the meantime, there was the scalability conflict in Bitcoin with all the talk of hard forks and raising the block size and that kind of thing. And during that, then everyone who was watching that, it became very obvious that full nodes were very important and improved Bitcoin's security model. Starting now, like post the scalability conflict, I think nobody would go to bar.io and like make that the basis of your wallet.
Yeah.
Things have changed since then.
So have you seen SegWit adoption recently? It went up 5% when Core introduced SegWit with 0.16. So I think this 5% maybe the people who are downloading the latest version right away and using Bitcoin Core, and 5% of all transactions are doing by those people. However, Coinbase is introducing segregated witness too in a strange selective way or something like that. There are rumors, and yeah, so we cannot be really sure if it was a core GUI users or not. So that's an interesting.
Well, from my point of view, the actual adoption of SegWit for transactions is not. I mean, there's only my point of view, but it's not very important. That it only gives you, you know, a few more. And I thought the most interesting part of SegWit was how it fixed malleability, and that would mean you could make Lightning and other off-chain protocols work. And that would be, instead of a ×2 scale, that would be increased by ×100, ×1,000, ×10,000 easily. And that's the more exciting thing. And that worked on the very first day that SegWit was activated.
All right, let's go to some harder questions. So the main problem with JoinMarket, in my opinion, is that it cannot do high anonymity set like 3 to 6. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, so I definitely agree that they JoinMarket is, I think, it's one of the, as far as I know, the first method to have to mix your bitcoins without giving them to someone else. So you mix them on your own computer. And it was I did know about this before I started, that, you know, it has limitations, but other people said even with those limitations, it's still worth doing, even if it's not like 100% solution to everything, and it will give us time to develop other stuff. So yeah, and another problem with JoinMarket is it uses a lot of space on the blockchain. That each CoinJoin transaction is actually much bigger than a normal transaction, and it means more fees and less scalability. So yeah, there are definitely problems out there, but I can say at least it exists. Like, people are using it, and it is out there.
I wanted to talk about this.
Yeah, if you wanted to improve your privacy right now, then from what I can see, there's no other way except to use a centralized mixer.
I wanted to talk about this too, that in Bitcoin privacy, everyone is researching, and basically no one is coding it. I mean, centralized mixers are jokes, and you are the only one who actually came out with a solution, with some code, and people are using it. So and it's very interesting that that you are not as known as people working on privacy, like space technology privacy, Mimblewimble, and confidential transactions, which might in 10 years might get into Bitcoin. And yeah, those are the things got the most publicity, and people like you who actually came out with a product and doing stuff is yeah, not that much.
Yeah, well, in some ways I prefer that, but there's no I'm not someone to like court attention, and I don't really get any benefit from, so I'm happy with not being too well known, as long as the people who matter know about me.
Okay, so another thing is that I think, and I'm interested if you agree or not, that people don't implement privacy technology because they cannot profit from it, right? You cannot profit from JoinMarket. I cannot profit from ZeroLink and stuff like that, because at that point when you start profiting from it, you are at risk. And
true.
people rather don't even start it implementing, and that's why they are researching. Research is safe. Doing stuff is getting risky.
Yeah, that's fair to say in some ways. Although there are some ways you can profit. Like, so it is in the sense
you can,
like
but
building infrastructure.
At the point when you start profiting, it gets risky from a legal point of view. You know, if you provide freedom for the people,
that's only one way. That's only one way to profit. If you profited like a centralized mixer that say, I'm going to take 2%, that would be one way to profit. Yeah. And then obviously you'd be under legal risk, and you could also probably de-anonymize the people you're profiting from. But there's other ways. So I think you and me, we both have donation addresses, and it seems that the Bitcoin community is ready and willing to help fund technology. And over the years, I know you and me have received donations, which definitely helps. And that is one way of profiting. And then other ways is, I know you can use, there's many more people who are interested in privacy who are not just like, I don't know, Bitcoin users. So I know people who there's plans to use some of the privacy technology in other blockchains, like in side chains. I think that's what Blockstream is doing. And they get a profit because they sell that to people who want to use side chains. And people who want to use side chains also need privacy. So they can profit in that respect as well.
Okay, that's I think that's a bit different, but let's not go into it, and let's go into my second my second hard question about JoinMarket. The fees, as the blockchain fees go up, JoinMarket transactions go up with even more, becoming more expensive. Since instead of paying $1, you're going to pay with 5 anonymities at $5. And do you see it's going to be a problem?
Yeah, so I think long term, as the blockchain gets more and more expensive, then CoinJoin for privacy will not be practical. So from my point of view, JoinMarket for privacy is one day will stop. We'll use some other privacy technology. But I think one way JoinMarket and CoinJoin could be useful is for scalability, that if Schnorr signatures become added to Bitcoin, you could have in JoinMarket or another CoinJoin technology a way that many people come together to create a CoinJoin, and they combine their Schnorr signatures.
Yes, that's what I'm doing actually. Yeah.
Yeah, and so you could imagine a situation where people use JoinMarket or something else to create a transaction with Schnorr signatures that pays directly into a Lightning Network payment channel, or a CoinSwap funding or something like that. So that over time, I think privacy will be more off-chain, because it's easier to take information off the chain, or not easier, but cheaper to take information off chain rather than add lots more decoy information, which is what JoinMarket does.
All right, another thing, people are not aware of JoinMarket, and actually I wasn't really aware of too, because the basic idea is in my head, and then I figured out there is a Tumblr mode, and whatever was as I understand it, I'm not sure I'm right, but whatever is the problem with a quick JoinMarket, you are a taker and making a JoinMarket transaction, whatever privacy problem it had, the JoinMarket Tumblr mode doesn't have this. Am I right?
Yeah, so a single CoinJoin has limited privacy properties because there's only an anonymity set of the amount of people you CoinJoin with. And then there's this Tumblr mode in JoinMarket, which is where it does many CoinJoins one after another, and it has some random weights and stuff. And at the end of it, you get, I think, very good privacy at the end of it.
Yeah, I was actually thinking of that market makers are making very similar transactions before and after. They are making CoinJoin transactions before and after the CoinJoin when a taker comes. So this way, I think the makers can be identified, and you can figure out which one was the taker. You know what I mean? And
yeah, so that's if it was a single CoinJoin.
Okay, what does the tumbler mode do? How does
the
it
tumbler
solve
mode
this?
does one coin join after another that the user adds some money to it, and then the tumbler does a coin join with that money to one of its own addresses again, and then they address the output of that coin join. It does a coin join again with a different coin join amount and everything with the random delays and all that stuff. And then when you're looking at these transactions on the blockchain, they all look like they are. It looks like coin joins going into coin joins again and again, and the taker and the maker outputs are not obvious at all. There's no real way to tell which is which.
And if I remember well, the tumbler mode is doing maker transactions to not only takers, right?
No, it's not. But it could be
It's
that was
not?
one
It's
idea
only
which I haven't
takers.
coded yet. It only acts as a taker.
Okay, I thought it's Adam Wilson told me, but anyway, I don't know what I was remembering. All right.
Maybe he meant that it could be added to it. Maybe he meant it could be added to Tumblr one day, or maybe is it? Yeah. Also, some people are maybe using it in that way that they have a yield generator bot to collect the fees, and then they also from there make transactions when they want to spend their bitcoins, and that would be a combination of a maker and a taker.
Okay, how about I want you to talk about a bit of your Electrum Bitcoin Core integration. I know you were talking about that, but this is a different podcast. So tell me what this is about.
So I thought of that. It mostly came out of because the scalability conflict, that it would be good if as many people as possible can use full node wallets. And I know people who actually work on Bitcoin Core. They're doing most of them work on the computer sciencey technical things of making better scalability. So they come up with really interesting stuff about Merkle trees and compact blocks, and then just to name many other technologies. And then there's less time spent on the graphical user interface, which is obviously understandable.
Yes.
But it would be nice if you could. I thought it would be nice because my Electrum was my preferred wallet. I thought it would be nice if you could somehow connect it to Core. So at first I thought maybe you could
use Electrum interface with Core.
Yeah, I thought maybe you could give Electrum the IP address of your full node, which doesn't have pruning enabled, and then it will download every block, and that would be like a very private way of using it. And then I thought, that's a bit rubbish, because then it means you can't enable pruning, and you have to have an open port and all this kind of stuff. And just, I don't know, I was sitting down somewhere and I realized, what if you did it with the importing of addresses, which is what JoinMarket does. That you import every address that's in the Electrum wallet, and then you ask the full node to tell you which transactions have been on those addresses, and then you send them to Electrum. And then with that way, that would mean pruning would work. You could use pruning, and you could use blocks only, and you could use lots of other features that save resources, but you'd also get full node verification and privacy and security and all the other benefits of using a full node. And then I asked a few people about it, and they said, yeah, I'd use this, that seems useful. So, and another good thing of the Electrum thing is actually quite easy to do, like in the sense that you don't need to invent any new technologies. You just need to get two different protocols and connect them together, really. So it seemed like it seemed like very useful and easy to do.
You know what would be more interesting to do is somehow connecting it to LND, which is the Lightning Network daemon, which is in a way that it's running behind Neutrino. Now that will be an interesting project, because Neutrino is great from a privacy point of view. I don't know how much you looked into it.
No, I know all about. But back before it was, the technology that Neutrino uses was called the committed Bloom filters. You search for it on the Bitcoin developer mailing list, you can find a few emails. And one of them, I thought about that quite a lot.
This was the committed Bloom filters stuff.
Yeah. So I actually have an email that it was doing some calculations on exactly how much privacy you get, like with a certain false positive rate and all that stuff. And I think that the Neutrino people probably, or at least Roastbeef told me that he used that maths and that it was useful to him. So yeah, I know Neutrino is very good, and it was that was another thing I considered with something like Electrum personal server, but Yeah, I mean, it was
It's
definitely
not
useful.
really.
It's just it's more complicated to use. It's more complicated to code. Like you'd have to integrate
Yes,
neutrino, this new technology, and
it's
then
not
using
really.
this selection personal server is like really quick to do. It took a few days of coding, really.
I think no one should thinking about doing neutrino integration right now until Bitcoin Core nodes start to serve the filters to the clients. Because right now I was trying to do it, and of course I get into the problem that, well, then if you want to do it, then you have to run your own server right now, and that kind of defeats the point of a lot of things there. So I was like,
Lightweight
all right,
aspect.
I write my own server and optimize, and until Bitcoin Core starts to serve the nodes, until then I'm not going to write a full protocol of neutrino. But yeah, that's what I'm working on right now on Hidden Wallet with Lucas, and yeah, it's going to be good.
Can hidden wallets, because I haven't looked at it much or used it, but can it be connected to Bitcoin Core?
No, it was
to me that seems like a really easy thing. Just something easy to do now, and then you get full privacy from doing it.
It was a full block SPV wallet, and I wrote everything, all the consensus stuff what is needed for a full block SPV wallet, so block downloading and peer-to-peer network and stuff like that. So I wanted to keep it within my code and not to delegate that stuff to an external software.
Okay.
And now I'm doing the same, but a little bit less because of how neutrino now works. It have to be refactored. And yeah, maybe in the future, but you introduce more and more stuff, and those are bringing more and more bugs. So yeah,
and you have to. Doesn't neutrino have? It doesn't use Bloom filters. It uses, I think, compact bit fields or something. And
so what it does,
libraries for that and stuff.
All full node creates a filter, and that filter is the same index. They call it index, and that index around 3 to 7 gigabytes right now, going to be sent to every client, and that's what's being synchronized. Okay.
Yeah.
And from that filter, they can figure out which blocks they are interested in, which blocks they have transactions in. And from random full nodes all over the network, the clients asking full blocks. And, they are not asking from the same node, and that's a privacy on the network level that's very hard to break.
So that's like in the original committed Bloom filters email. It's exactly the same as that.
It's exactly the same. Okay.
Yeah,
I remember.
The only thing I meant was, instead of actually using Bloom filters, the primitive, they have another way to have a probabilistic data structure.
They are using Golomb-Rice filters.
Yeah.
And that's about half as big as the Bloom filter. So basically that's the reason why Golomb-Rice filter.
Yeah. There was one thing I thought of. I've remembered now, but I mean, I didn't tell anyone. But it was so probably right now they have one filter per block. Is that right?
Yes, one filter per block.
What if you had one filter for every 10 blocks or for every 100 blocks? Because then you'd need, if you had it for every 100 blocks, you'd need 100 times less filters. So then instead of being 3 gigabytes, it would be like 300 megabytes or so, or 30 megabytes. But then it would be a trade-off of false positives. And then if you found one, if this filter said your address is in it, you'd have to download 100 blocks instead of just one. But still, that could be one way to change the trade-off.
I know what you mean. Yeah, I don't remember reading this in the Bitcoin improvement proposal, but I think because they are going to mobile, so mobile wallets should be able to use it.
Yeah.
they are not very happy about downloading 100 blocks. Yeah, so and anyway, at this moment I don't really see a reason to do that. I mean, it's much more private than anything we had before in light clients. There are no theoretical attacks yet on it.
Yeah, well, I thought maybe only the reason is then the full index of all these filters would be smaller. But I don't know.
Yeah.
It will be a different trade-off.
Yeah, so actually what I did, why I wrote my own, well, actually Lucas wrote it, not me. Why we decided to do it, our own implementation, is because first we would have to use the neutrino server. Second, we can make smaller filters. How? By, if hidden wallet is batch32 only wallet, then it's not a big, you don't expose more privacy than, if it's not a batch32 output, then they already know it cannot be hidden wallets outputs. And
hold on, can you explain that again? So how does base32, can you explain that again? I didn't understand.
So we are only using native segregated witness addresses in a hidden wallet.
Right.
Actually, we must use segregated witness addresses, which is not only native but wrapped segregated witness address. But we decided to not use wrapped segregated witness address because the filter is going to be much smaller and the code's going to be much simpler. Like I don't even know the filters right now would be more than 30 megabyte or something like that.
Okay.
And as the batch32 adoption, base32, that's what you said. Anyway, as the adoption of native segregated witness grows, the anonymity set and the filters grows too. But if you just only have, and if the adoption doesn't grow, then we introduce the old kind of segregated witness addresses, the backwards compatible ones.
Okay.
And oh well, there we are. But why it is really good, because we don't need to care about any blocks before segregated witness activation. All right.
Yeah.
That's yeah.
One thing I thought that would be good. I mean, I know other people have said this as well, that right now the way wallets are backed up is you have the mnemonic phrase. It would be good if information in the phrase also contained the wallet's creation date. And then whenever a user imported this phrase, that you could know exactly when you had to start scanning from. So then that means if you create a wallet today, whenever you recover it, you don't need to scan between 2009 and 2018.
I know. That's exactly what I was doing with hidden wallet.
Yeah, that's good.
Why it doesn't matter now, why I'm going to abandon that, because the filters are gonna be so small, so it just, it just doesn't matter at all.
Right, but then maybe in 5 years or 10 years, it may matter. It will be smaller if it did have a creation date.
Yeah, sure, definitely. 5 years or 10 years. I think, Bitcoin wallet is like every 2 years you have to rewrite everything, because there are just so many new stuff that's coming. And yeah, true. I mean, the creation date would be the segregated witness adoption activation.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, it's for resynchronizing the wallet, which doesn't happen very often.
Yeah, that's right.
But yeah, another thing that I realized that in hidden wallet, because we were doing that at when start, so they are not going to remember the date and time zones and every kind of stuff like that are going to be problematic too, like people who are traveling. So there are edge cases.
Yeah, well, you could, for that, you could, I think what's done in another method is you you have the creation date, and then you actually start 2 weeks before that, because that's only about 2,000 blocks, which is not very much. And then you're almost guaranteed to get every.
Yes, but weren't you talking about sorting the mnemonic words with the creation date?
Yeah, so adding,
if you sort it.
Not sorting, but just adding it to the end of the encoded data is the entropy and then the creation date, and then that's encoded into words.
Yes, so you cannot recover the wallet if you don't remember the exact creation date. That's what you're saying, right?
No, I'm saying it would be included in the words. So if you remember, if you have all 12 or 13 or 14 words, some of the information would also be the wallet's creation date.
Okay, so if you don't remember the creation date and you write 1 week before that?
No, so then the software would take the creation date and then start searching 1 or 2 weeks before that.
All right. All right, I get it. Yes, that's fine. I was thinking about you want to add security to the mnemonic words with the creation date, but
no, this is more about the efficiency, about that you don't have to scan the entire chain. You just start from the creation date.
Yes. It's yeah, that's exactly what I was doing with Hidden Wallet, but right now I'm abandoning it because it doesn't matter with such a small index sizes for now. For the next 2 years, it's not gonna matter, and if and over time I have to rewrite it when the Bitcoin network adopts the client-side filtering. So it must be rewritten again. You know what I mean? Anyway, okay. I think that's it. Thanks for coming and everything. It was
all right. Thanks
it was
for having
really
me.
fun. Okay, thank you. Bye.
Bye.